welcome to Maria Unfiltered, where we explore observations and random things. And today we'll be talking about or exploring different behaviors you'll notice of Filipinos across different generations through different events. Since today is the Holy Week and I went home, there are various behaviors that I've noticed from people of different generations. For example, the most popular one I think would be from the previous generations beyond millennials, so like boomers and beyond. You'll notice that they would religiously go to church or pray or practice habits inclined with the Roman Catholic Church, and then somehow they would force it onto the younger generations. Like they would call you names or even tell you or ask you, are you the devil's child? If you don't go to church or celebrate Mass with them. So that's first. Second would be about resources. Like, for example, if they haven't been performing well economically, they or some would look down on that, or like titles are very important. Like, for example, it's a very big deal if you are an engineer or a lawyer or a doctor in most families, even the extended ones. Because I don't know, I guess for them, titles are more important than the overall well being of the person, no matter what. Another peculiar aspect would be keeping things bottled up. I guess others would be expressive about their thoughts and their feelings and just straightforwardly express it to the other person or towards the other person. But some would just tell it to another person instead of confronting that. So it ends up like a whole new spawn of rumors that even though the story was true, it gets spliced or edited, or even some vital pieces of information are omitted. Another thing that I've been noticing is that some kids these days don't respect or don't show respect to the people or the older ones or for their parents, older siblings, people like that. Because for one, I have experienced this incident. Like there was this little girl and she threw a tablet to the back of her grandmother. So that's really a shocker. I don't know if, and also that little girl made her mom cry just because. And seemingly, the mom of that little girl can no longer manage the kid, and that kid is overpowering the parents. And one more thing, it's like the parents of that little girl were apparently engaging in some coitus, and the kids were nearby. And those kids picked up the certain actions that were done during coitus and seemingly thought it was playtime and imitated the sounds and also some of the motions to their uncles, and it was just flabbergasting. Like when I heard that story from my nephew, who's technically the uncle, I was just appalled, and I cannot believe that parents exposed their children who are below 10 years old to that act. I mean, you guys can have your privacy and do your activity elsewhere and make sure that your children are properly taught and educated. But I don't know what's happening, guys. It's like it's crazy. And one more thing that I've been noticing, well, aside from the most common thing, which is greeting a relative during the holidays, that hey, you gained weight, or like, do you look fat? What happened? It's come on, it's 2023 and we should not be greeting people by their weight gains or what, because people are struggling, and there are also medical issues underneath the weight gain or the weight loss, and probably we don't know the entire story and we just only see the tip of the iceberg. So it's best for us to practice empathy and just ask them how they are, and not pinpoint their weight loss or their weight gain, because for example, for a person like me, my weight is always dwindling because of my meds, and it's really hard to to maintain, because sometimes appetite fluctuates. Sometimes I feel hungry. Sometimes I'm hardly hungry. So, yeah, I guess what I'm trying to point out or say is that if we want to greet another relative or another person, let's make sure that it's really a greeting and not uh, an insult that would just pierce them through their soul, and that could be traumatic also, and that could also trigger other things like body dysmorphia, or they would feel very very insecure and paralyzed by the thought of that. Also, another thing is about tattoos. It's kind of taboo sometimes, and most of the older people or those who belong to the previous generations really think that if you have a tattoo, you're some kind of a criminal. I mean, tattoos aren't really the basis of a criminality of a person. It's an art, and I really believe that we should not be like condemning a person, or like telling them that they're bad people just because they have tattoos. And I personally experienced that stigma or that taboo, because when I last went home, they never saw my visible tats on my wrist, on my arms, and on my spine. So they saw it when I came back, and they were like, Why do you have so many tattoos? Can't donate any more blood." But my cousin-in-law, who's a licensed caregiver, told me that you can donate blood after 6 months of getting inked. So that's the contrary to that, and they won't believe unless you lay out like studies or research papers or what. So that's so weird. Anyway, going back, my mom or like my family doesn't even mind or nitpick about my tattoos. They're okay, they're pretty chill about it. But it's those uncles, aunts who are making a big fuzz about it. The story behind me getting these tattoos is really deep. It's also part of my coping mechanism, or how I cope through grief, through depression. And during 2021, that was one of the most heart wrenching years of my life. And as a way of coping, I wanted to feel something physical. Like, I wanted to feel physical pain instead of emotional pain. And what I thought of, or rather, what I learned from another friend, is that she got inked so that she wouldn't do trigger warning self harm. So, with that in mind, that was the whole reason why I had added tattoos. And spine ink is said to be one of the most painful ones, but when I was getting my spine ink, I never felt anything really. It felt like um ant bites, really, like those red ones. And the rest of my tattoos never really felt like they hurt. They just feel like pinches to me. So it really helped a lot in coping. And yeah, so I guess another thing that's questionable, or like you'll notice, would be how some Filipinos of previous generations would seem like so religious, but they talk bad behind a person, and it's just so weird because it's somehow like a hypocrite. And I don't know, I don't have anything else to add to that. It's just so weird, and it's like being two-faced. And believe me, I have called out some on that. Like, they are so religious, but when it comes to interacting with other people, they always have this snide comments, or like reasons why they don't confront the person directly or straightforwardly. And yeah, I don't know. Okay, so another thing about Filipinos, especially the previous generations, I mean, and especially if they're from the province, is that they look down on people who move in together. Like, to them, it's like a big sin. But these days, marriage is a really big thing. It's one of the biggest commitments, I think, that you need to be really loyal to and devoted. And even though you've been dating for so long, like a decade almost, it's not always a guarantee that you'll end up marrying each other. So why not do a dry run per se and test the waters if you're really meant for each other, and if not, then it's just better to break up rather than stay in the relationship just because you've been dating for so long. And that's why I've encountered the term that you will call sunken cost fallacy. Try to research on that and you'll know more of what I mean. So, moving forward, when it comes to moving in together, the older generations don't see it as something that's acceptable, unlike to the millennials and to the younger ones. I see that it's something that's acceptable and practical because it's really high to live on your own, especially if you're in metro cities like Metro Manila or other bustling cities in the country, or wherever you may be. It's better to have someone who can share the expenses with. You can save money on that too. Plus, you'll see the true colors of your partner or whoever you're dating, and know how or see yourself or ask yourself if you see yourself in the long run with this person, right? Because most there's a saying that you'll see the true colors of the person you're dating when you live with them. So why not discover it ahead of time before getting married and just discovering it then that will save you from a very toxic marriage and possibly a very expensive annulment since there's no divorce in the Philippines. Okay, so I think that's it for now. And I don't know if you share the same sentiments with me or you observe the same things also. And if you do, don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments or message me. And I really appreciate those who have been interacting with me through my socials and been asking about Substack or like rating. I'm really happy that I have shared my liking or my interest of writing to other people's and it inspired them or ignited them to write also. So that's it for now. And thanks for tuning in to Maria Unfiltered, where you will hear more unfiltered thoughts about or almost anything and everything under the sun. Thank you.